Greg, do you have a list of all the participants that are on Zoom?
I do. I have all the board members are here. Then I have Sarah, Nick, and Don Williams.
Okay, thank you. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of August 3rd, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion? A motion to approve? Do I have a second? Grant Schaefer seconds. So the approval of the minutes of August 3rd, 2020. Okay, so next on the agenda is the city planner report. Alicia, do you have anything to pass today?
I do. I've noticed a lot of green algae. It's not green blue algae, but there's a lot of green algae in the water, so it's making it look really nasty. I don't know if that's normal or if there's something that we can do about that, but I know we've been treating some areas. Hopefully that will help that. I also have Sarah Bisson told me that they are starting to look at grants for the parrot feather control, and Department of Ecology opened that grant option on October 2nd, and she wanted to know for sure if we were still interested in working on getting a grant to control the parrot feather in the canals and lakes.
Yes, that is absolutely. We all, as the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board members, agree 100%. We need that.
Okay, I will pass that on to Sarah and have her start working on that if that's acceptable with everyone.
Yeah. And also, Alicia, that's an annual event. She needs to tickle her calendar for next October to start it again for that year.
Okay, I will make sure that she does that.
I'm sorry, what was the name of the person reporting that?
My name's
That's
Alicia.
No, I know you're Alicia. No, Sarah, what was the last name?
Sarah Bisson, she's our grant writer.
Okay, B-I-S-S-O-N?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you have anything? Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's all I have.
Was there somebody else that wanted to say something? Greg?
No.
Okay. Okay, so on the agenda is the Fresh Waterways Corporation report.
This is Phyllis Brown. Are still in hiatus. Bruce is still recovering. Bob's still recovering. Grant, have you been out fishing any weeds lately?
Several trips pulling weeds out of the fish hook, pennywort, and I'd let them blow down to the spillway. And with this last warm spell, the wind shifted from the south and blew the pennywort back north, back into the fish hook and back up Grand Canal. And so now we get to do it all over again. I'm just getting tired.
Have city employees come down and pick that stuff out if we don't have overspill and stuff in the water. Get it over the edge, get it out of here. Otherwise it's gonna go away.
I'm not sure who could hear that. I could only catch a word or two of that.
We need to have a city people come down to the spillway and either take it out, pull it up on the banks to dry out, or toss it over the edge of the spillway so that it doesn't keep blowing back and forth.
Yeah, Phyllis, this is Nick. It's ironic because John and I were talking about that this morning. We were talking about the last batch that was pulled out, and he says, yeah, some more just showed up. So at the end of the day, if you guys can let us know, that way we can make sure that we are definitively planning on getting out there, no problem. John's team will get out there and get it all pulled out.
So Nick, do you want us to contact John directly?
Yeah, that would work perfectly.
Okay, we can do that. Great, thanks.
Okay. All righty. So does anybody have anything to add there about the Fresh Waterways Corporation?
No.
Greg?
No.
Okay, thank you. All righty. So next is the old business. And we actually kind of started talking about it a bit, Grant, when you brought it up about the waterways treatment for the aquatic weed control. As you can see, I removed some other items. I think those kind of will be on the back burner for now. But the waterways treatment for the aquatic weed, we are going to have to keep that at the forefront. It isn't just something that is occurring in the winter, in the spring and early summertime. The pennywort, what I have observed living on the Grand Canal is exactly what Grant just said, is there's these huge patches of pennywort that are floating as the wind blows, whether it's a north wind, a south wind, they're blowing and they're getting into the other canals as well. So for me, I think what I want to do is get out on a boat, go through all of the canals, kind of chronicleize this as best as I can over a day or two of exactly where this pennywort is, how much pennywort we have, and then I would like to come back to the advisory board and figure out how we're going to battle this. If we don't do something about it very quickly, I think that in the springtime and early summer, this is going to get way out of control, much worse than what it was this particular season. And also, I get Ocean Shores residents that either call me or stop by and talk to me, and really feel that, well, I think some of them were under the impression that we were going to attack the pennywort the same as we did the other weeds. And I think we really need to kind of do some concentration on the pennywort and figure out the best solution to try to rid ourselves of what's in the waterways now, and then maybe come up with a plan of as it starts to reproduce in the spring or summer. So I kind of like to just throw that out and like to hear what you guys have to say about that. Bob, Phyllis, Grant, any of you want to jump in and give me your opinion on that?
Plan. You can't just leave this to nature because it's going to reoccur. It's been occurring for dozens of years out here, and you got to stay on top of this stuff or it will take over. So I'm with Steve. Let's create a plan. Let's adhere to the plan. And if we need more volunteers, we'll have to find them, I guess.
Grant?
I've been battling this and experimenting with it. In the past, I've backed my little 14-foot aluminum boat up to it and threw out 2 grappling hooks, and I could get great big patches and tow them down to the Grand Canal, let the wind take them to the spillway. But I'm limited in how much I can get because the grappling hooks tear through, and I make 3 pieces out of 1 piece if I use too much horsepower. So what I'm thinking about doing is rigging up a sort of a seining net that is only about 18 inches deep and putting floats on the top and weights on the bottom and just encircling all the just go down through the canal and pick up all the loose pieces. Somebody pull them out in the middle of the canal, and I just go around them, pick them up, and drag them all with the net down to the Grand Canal and down to the spillway, so that maybe the city can take care of it. But I have to fabricate the net, and I think I've got enough net left over from the harvester to do that. So anyway, I've got buoys and I've got sinkers and I got lines, so it's just a matter of energy to do it.
Now, what boat would you use for that, Grant?
Well, with that arrangement, I could put more horsepower on it, so I could use any of the boats. I could use the number 2 boat, I could use the harvester, I could use my boat, because I could tug harder on that, and I wouldn't have to worry about tearing up the patches, because it would be trapped by the seining net, being about 18 inches deep. So.
Nick, would it be possible to have a city employee to go out with Grant when he does that? Because currently at this time, we really don't have a capable person to assist Grant. I don't think I would be of much help to him.
Yeah, that's something I need to dig into. You know, Steve and I have talked a little bit about that, you know, and obviously the training that has been done, you know, Steve's training in the Navy vastly is different than what my guys are trained to do. And so it's a little bit of a different work environment and something I'll definitely need to look into from a you know, an L&I based standpoint. But one of the things that I was curious about, you know, as it relates to the towing and you know, kind of encircling everything and taking it to a place where you want it to. From my understanding of Pennyworth, it's really, really heavy. And so if we could get that to a boat launch, a place where I have the ability to get an excavator or a backhoe, now I have the ability to get that big mass out rather than, you know, down at the outfall, which now it's still manual work down there. So definitely something to kind of kick around, but you know, Phyllis, definitely, I love the idea of getting Grant some help. Question is how can I make that happen? So I need to dig into that.
One thing that would service spots around the waterways that we could tow weeds to and get them out of the water. You there?
What was that, Grant?
It would be really helpful if the city had service spots where they could get down to the water and pull the weeds out. If we can get the weeds to that service spot, there's not very many places where the city has access.
Right, and I think right now, I mean, we're talking the North End Grand Canal, or the North Grand Canal Park, no, not Grand Canal, North Bay Park, Chinook Park, and the Marine View Drive boat launch. I mean, I think those are the 3 that we have access to right now, right?
You have a service spot up on the very north part of the lake. On the east side, there's a service access. Then let's see what else. Yeah, that's about it. There's one on Grand Canal, isn't there? But there's currently no ramp there. It's just a kayak launch spot.
I don't know. I was actually looking at that the other day, looking at the aerials to see, you know, if there are options that we have available to us. And unfortunately, there weren't a lot out there, but you're exactly right. I'll see what I can come up with there.
You know how long it takes to tow one of those bunches of weeds to one of those service spots? You're about 1 mile an hour, and that's not very fast. It takes maybe an hour just to get there.
How about city on block or closed block?
Yeah.
So just stand by. Bob Fow has something.
So Nick, how about access from city-owned or foreclosed lots? Are there some of those nearby, do you know, or could you research that?
Most of those have been selling off, but I can definitely double check and see if we have any other, waterfront properties right now. My gut feeling is
Okay.
no, but I'll definitely ask the question.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Greg, do you have anything to add to this topic?
I know I agree that it should be assessed, but yeah, I don't have any more.
Alicia, do you have anything to add about this?
Not at this time, no. I can check on
Okay.
the maps, to see if we have any ownership, though, if you want me to do that.
That would be helpful.
And if you find those, get back to me, so we can map out a plan of recovery.
Okay,
Did you
I'll
get
let
all
you
that?
know what I find.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Alicia. All right, Scott or Nick, do you guys have anything to add to this?
No, not at the moment.
Scott, do you have
No.
anything you want to throw in? Okay. Well, I was going to say, I talked to a company specifically about mechanical harvesting. And so what we're talking about, obviously the best way to get rid of pennywort is mechanical harvesting, right? And so, yes, utilizing the volunteer approach is a great approach. But the flip side of that coin is that, we're trying to find an opportunity or somebody to come out and help Grant. We have service lot limitations. I mean, there's a number of limitations that are kind of floating around out there. And so, the best solution may be to contract that work out. And, I'm throwing that out there. The cost for having somebody out here for an entire week, not looking at any production rates, is about $13,000. And so, but that's to have them out here for a week. I don't know if all of this can get done in a day or 2 days, which would cut that cost, dramatically down. So, is that something that the board would be interested in supporting if I were to take that to council?
All right, Phyllis, what were you going to say?
So Nick, you've only gotten one estimate for this job?
Correct. It was just, not even really an estimate. It was, how much is it going to cost to have his team out here for an entire week? Because I don't know how long that's going to take, to address all of the pennywort. Like I said, it could be a day, it could be 3 days, it could be 12 days. I don't know.
Well, if he's doing all the canals, it'll be a week at least. Maybe if we designated what areas we wanted dealt with instead of him just picking what areas he wanted to do would be a better option, because as you know, we have never treated, well, since we've been several years now, we don't treat every area every year for pennywort. So maybe an evaluation of what areas really do need to be dealt with now versus just saying, we're going to do this, and they don't know what areas need to be dealt with, that we direct them where we want them to work.
Yeah, or another option could be, that we do, kind of a hybrid where we try to get as much as we can and take it to a spot where they are going to be harvesting. And that way, we're able to get that stuff up on the boat quick and easy and get it out of the water.
Right. This is Bob, Nick. I would support mechanical removal as long as we knew who was doing it, what the cost was going to be, what assurances they made that they would actually get the job done, and two, who are they? I would want to check well into their background, make sure that They have a history of doing this and they know how to do it right.
Makes sense.
Okay?
Now, Nick, is that the funding for that? Is that would that come from the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board or the Fresh Waterways Fund that I just presented to council last week? Or would that come out of a different fund?
It comes out of the same bucket. So it's the request that you made was we'll call it a subsidiary of the Stormwater Fund. And so work associated with the Fresh Waterways is funded through the Stormwater utility. And so this would be an impact on the Stormwater utility. And so the question of, I think your request was, for $50,000 or $55,000 annually. And so that concept of taking it away from the request, I think we found out last year, and I think at this stage in the game, it's still too early to say, oh yeah, that's fine. Let's just go ahead and cut the chemical control down, by 15,000 to accommodate this. I don't think that that's in the best interest of the life cycle of the system that we're talking about.
Yeah, right.
So I think we're realistically talking about an additive cost on top of, what the request was. At least that's how I would view it.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that we were just on the same sheet of music with that. Okay. All righty. So one last before we move on, is there anybody that has a comment, any of the board members or others, for the old business waterways treatment for aquatic weed control? Bob Fowl.
I have a question. Going back to the last thing, and that is this something, Nick, you can get on fairly quickly so we can get a plan organized around that? Because we can't wait until next May to figure out what we're going to do. It's just be way too late again.
I don't disagree. I think the evaluation of the locations would be kind of step one. Step two is including that dollar amount in the budget, either that dollar amount or something else along those lines. Because at the end of the day, you still want to have some sort of framework that you're working towards, right? I don't think that we'll be able to wait until May. Go ahead.
We can't. The weeds will be too deep. I was just thinking that maybe some of these things could be done at the same time. Like you could spec out the contractor, get all of their background, historical information at the same time we're looking for places to dump these things. They're not mutually exclusive is what I'm saying.
Yeah, this disposal, I think, is a secondary item, and that's something that you're right. We can be looking at. But at the end of the day, when you're talking to a contractor like this, they're going to want to know from a production rate standpoint, and it's going to be dependent upon how you structure that contract. If the intent is for us to remove 6.3 acres of pennywort, based on that survey, we should be able to figure out how much that acreage is and where those locations are at. And that contractor will then look at, the amount of time that it takes him to get from point A to point B, to fill up the hopper, to take it back, to dump it, and so on and so forth. And so that's kind of how they're going to be, quote unquote, bidding that work. The other way, like I said, is, just to have them out for a week and let's just do everything that we can. We pay them, per day that they're out here. And so I'm not entirely certain how we would structure that contract just yet. But first things first, before we do any of that work, we must make sure that we have budget authority for doing that. If we don't have any budget authority for doing that, then we're just wasting everybody's time. And so that to me is critical path number one. That's the key piece. And right now we're working on a budget. And so if it's incorporated, we will know probably in December. If that is incorporated into the budget, then that gives us the framework to start moving on it. So I know it's clear as mud right now, but I think it all starts with let's evaluate those locations and identify how much stuff that we're talking about. And that I think is going to help kind of paint that picture for us as well.
Nick, this is Phyllis. I have a question for you, something to think about. So it's going to cost 12 to 13,000 for such a small amount of area being covered in our 23 miles of waterways. Have we priced out actual cost of buying our own harvester?
Negative. So like I said, that is a big topic. And so aside from the harvester, now we're talking about having staff doing it. The slippery slope then, starts to kind of unwind. I know there are people looking at the concept of us acquiring a dredge and having city workers facilitate that on an annual basis. I mean, there's a lot of big ideas floating around, but no, at this stage in the game, us facilitating that is not something that I have looked at.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All righty. One last thing from Grant.
One option is the old harvester has been decommissioned as a harvester and as a utility boat now. And it could be reassembled and it could pick up the pennywort without too much trouble. But it is slow. To go around and get a little bit here, a little bit there is quite a chore. But in a really dense area, it can do a good job. And the way it works is it merely scoops it up, bags it, and then any boat can tow it to a pickup point. And we used to winch it out onto a flatbed trailer with like Teflon sheets with a great big 6-foot diameter by, 9-foot long tube of netting. And then the city used to pick it up with a forklift, put it on a dump truck, and take it to wherever. That is an option, but it's a little bit of work to put the harvester back together again. It's just an option.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Okay. I'll close that out. On to new business. I actually don't have anything for this month for any new business. Okay, so good to the order. Start with Bob.
At this point, I really have nothing else to add. I think we've had a good discussion today, and I want to make sure that we stay on top of this because we wake up tomorrow and it's the 3rd of June. And we waited too long this year, and I don't want that to happen next year. We got to get on it, stay on it.
Phyllis?
I have nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Grant?
We're getting old and rusty, and we need some more youthful people on the boats to do whatever. And we need to think about assisting the corporation or the board with some city employees, younger ones, who are more balanced and more agile to help out on the water.
Thank you, Grant. Greg?
I have nothing.
So, Steve, I don't have anything to add. Okay, so we'll go to public comment. Sarah, I don't know if there's anybody who's dialed in since we started the meeting.
So just for the record, I did not receive any public comment via email. We do have one person not of the board or the city on the line, and that is Don Williams. Don, do you have a public comment?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I did not submit anything, but I just have a couple of questions. On one of the things is the common number of 23 miles of fresh waterways. Is that the shoreline? If I pull around on a map, the entire shoreline of all the canals, is that the 23 miles? And my second question is, does anybody have any recollection, I'm sure somebody does, as to how many lots are on the fresh waterways? And that's my question.
The short is 4,500.
Okay, so, Grant, you said short of 2,500 for the number of properties?
Yes, just under 2,500.
Okay, thanks a lot. And the mileage, is that shoreline miles, 23 miles?
That's shoreline.
Okay, thank you very much. Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
So that would conclude our public comment period, Steve.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so the time is 2:35. I will adjourn this meeting. Next meeting will be held November 2nd at 2 p.m. Place to be determined, more than likely Zoom. Okay, so I thank everybody in attendance today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.